Let's do it indeed. We are live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the round 23 player ratings. After the Blues. Oh,
God, that's when good. I know we've won. When you begin your review with after.
Yeah.
You ignore that when we've lost. Gloss over it, Harry.
It's good. Let me tell you, it's good. It's all good. It's all good, baby. Honestly, it is all good.
It's all gravy.
You reckon we can just sit here and just breathe for two and a half hours? I think that'll get the same impact.
Yeah, I mean, we could just sit and stare at Charlie for an hour's show. That's content.
Yeah. God damn.
Look at him. What a specimen. I mean, that is what everyone has to aspire to be. You are looking at pinnacle perfection.
Oh, dear. Oh, dear. Well, ladies and gents, we've given you an extra half hour to start this, to do this show, just because the way we're going to do the show tonight, we'll add the layer that we didn't have last week. So, as always, this is the player ratings. What we do is we look at each player's performance every game, and rather than just using the eye test or the heart test that supporters have, what we're doing is we're putting some fact and some data into it, and we're comparing each performance to those in the league, across the league, in the same position. And that's how we do it. We've got heat maps tonight. We've got key performance indicators. And I'm curious about this one, Pom, because great win, but a very hot contest either way with some mistakes in there as well.
Mate, it was feeling hot. What you'll see today is a little bit of a reflection of the game itself. You'll see some players below that happy 6 that we're looking for. You'll see some people that genuinely are a 6 get up to them 8s. And you kind of see what we've been professing for 12 weeks using this system, that there's an equilibrium, the circle of life, if you will. It comes into context. So TPI this week, I think it was 5.8 on my review. We were down where we're expected to be, which, again, if you've been watching the Pommy previews, I keep saying 2 goals is 10%. Someone's either got to get better 10%, or if an opposition gets worse 5% and you get better 5%, you usurp it. So it's really indicative in the data. You see where it fell off, but also where it went well.
Righto. Well, what we'll do is we'll get started. So, as the teams were named, what we're going to do is, you'll see it. We've got Wiedering first. We've also got his actual score blank. So that'll give you at home the chance to have a bit of a guess as to how you think Wiedering will score. Pommy, let's talk about Wiedering's game. Thought he was bloody phenomenal.
Well, you'll see it there. Do you know what I mean? A bit different in the back line. Carlton changed it up a little bit. So they were just, for the first time in 10 weeks, they were below 80% rebound rate. So genuinely throughout the competition, we've been in the high 80s, nearly encroaching 90% at times of oppositions inside 50s, becoming a turnover of football. And one of the big things here was the spoils from our big guy. Wiedering started to negate bringing it to ground, which is why when we come to Sard and you come to Newman, you'll see something different. And this, for me, showcases something about Wiedering which won't be talked about in the press because they're not smart enough. And that is the ability to change his game to suit the situation, which is what all champions have. You know, when you hear people say, oh, it rained, they weren't very good. The great players find a way. And as you can see, he was targeted the most of any defender 5 times, winning all but one of them contests, did Wiedering, which is very tough to do. 12 spoils, 2 contested marks. They're all elite for a player of his caliber and his position. So it was a very solid game. And you'll see as well, 6 blue dots above the 50. You'll see there that's Carlton negated. And usually we close the corridor off. This week you saw in the second half, Voss closed the wing off and want the corridor kick, which is again a shift in Voss's defensive plans. So Vossi, like Wheatering, showcased the ability to adapt.
Righto. Well, let's take a look. 8.5. That puts him in very, very good company. I think there's quite a few in the chat that actually guessed that well. So a good performance. Brody Kemp. This young man just keeps growing every time he plays, it seems. These are great reps for him.
He's almost boring.
Yeah.
To be honest.
We love it.
Again, so I want you to look at the second stat there, and there's going to be quite a few players here that played this game very well. Now, Gold Coast are traditionally one of the strongest marking sides down, back and forward. It's the midfield it falls off, but they're very strong as players. And you'll see here, look at the ground ball gets. That's elite. Interesting enough, if he was a small player, that would be elite as well. So for a player that's playing the key position, medium size, they're phenomenal stats that you've found a way to negate the opposition. And he literally was a key component in the second half when Carlton started to open up the wings. You can see that hot spot there. He was the man lurking to feed off that conduit ball that they like. So very solid from Mr. Kemp.
From memory, I think he had 8 or 9 ground ball gets last week. He was in the same vicinity, just from memory. And just a reminder for those playing along at home: blue means elite, good. Green means good. Yellow means average. Red means below average. Is that right? Yeah.
Hey, Terry. Yeah.
Hey, I listen.
I can retire.
All right. 7.5. Very good.
Mate,
Adam Sard.
Forward back to doing that. That's good.
Adam Sard against his old club. Coming off a good performance last week. Back into form, some would say. This one here, contested possession rate. What to tell us about that?
So what I wanted to highlight here is how difficult the game is. So genuinely, these smaller players, we picked on Sard last week for Carlton getting him out in the open. So his contested possession rate was minuscule. For a guy of his caliber, that is incredibly hard. So a contested possession rate is effectively the percentage of possessions that were won when he's contested, when a player is getting a pressure act. Think of it that way, in position to tackle. And 55% of the time he received the ball, basically that's saying he was in the shit. He was having a bad day. And that's what we're looking at when you see Cripps. You're looking at players like that, these over 50s, the guys who are in the mess. Look where he was. He was genuinely at times the sweeper. You could call Adam Sard the janitor this week, because when the ball hit the deck and Carlton were under the cosh, it was this man. And interesting, Wheaters and Kemp didn't have high intercept numbers. Look who was. He was the loose guy. He was the guy who maybe was given the job easiest opposition player, and he had to adapt. And 11 ground ball gets, but also a danger in the air. Also our number one player at exiting 50. Phenomenal game from Sard.
Yeah, right. He's one that we are really going to need to step up and help us when it comes to finals football.
How weird does that say? Saying that on this show.
Wow. All right, 8 for Sardi. Now we got Caleb Marchbank. Ooh, bit of a red here. One-on-one percentage loss. So he lost all his one-on-ones. How many of those did he have?
Well, I mean, it's a tough day at the office for him. I mean, obviously he floated, to be fair, this week. He floated on players, but ended up having a one traditional one-on-one. Did lose that one-on-one. And had 4 aerial battles one-on-one, and he only won one of them. So that's a tough day out. Obviously, he was more of the central player this week and played loose. But that being said, okay, good in the marks and the contested. A lot of them marks, though, were loose marks when Carlton looked to switch and get out of that forward play. So that's why I put the contested there. So you can see the makeup of when he's doing his job and when he's being the accessory. So it was an okay game, though. But obviously, when you play in that central position, we're wanting that. And this will be one of them positions that McGovern is probably fighting Kemp and Marchbank for to get back in the side when he's fit and healthy.
Yeah, right. So 5.5. I felt like he got better as the game went on. I think he, along with a lot of them, to be fair, didn't look as mentally sharp as what they have been over the last few months. So no surprises there. Nick Newman. It's just blue everywhere, isn't it? He's, you know what? I don't know if we said this on the show last week. So I feel like, firstly, 20 from Ur says, yes, Tez, finals football. Yes, sir. I feel like, Pom, all of us, this channel, everything, we have a link to Nick Newman. It's the Nick Newman theory. And that is, you just get better week by week, day by day, a little bit more. And then eventually the body of work gets to a point where you look around, you're like, it's still Nick Newman, but it's like, he's all Australian.
If there was a method if someone should sponsor this show, Nick Newman should do, because every week we try and add a layer. Nick Newman is the definition of adding layers quietly, and before you know it, you're like, fucking hell, he's good. This guy here just continues to amaze. TPI loves Mr. Newman because just about every category you can judge a guy that is in that general defender role, this guy ranks elite at. It's actually boring doing his data. Like, you can get to the stage now that I can just fill out his number just by glancing his numbers. But again, incredible pressure on the ground. This is another thing that's no one talks about with Newman. Score launch is a real important stat, and score launches are something that no one talks about probably enough in the AFL. But a score launch in the AFL is an area that we're looking at your players like particularly your clearance players, your hit out players, and also your players that are intercepting. And basically a score and launch, by definition of the AFL, is a chain that started from an intercept, a hit out one, or a stoppage or a centre bounce clearance. So this is turning a 50-50 battle into a goal. And look at that, 3 of them ranking elite. So his ability to turn shit into gold, should call him a Rumpelstiltskin.
Yeah, no, he from what I've now learnt about TPI, it's the way he kicks the ball. I haven't really spoken about difficulty of kick until I started doing this with you, and I actually watch him a lot differently now than what I ever did, thanks to the ratings. So let's have a look. So he's coming off
a 10.
He's coming off two 10s in a row. All right. What does the chat say? Oof. All right. What does it actually mean? Let's go. Are you serious?
Can't be beat. Won't be beat.
The best in his position for the round.
Again, so basically a 10 is meaning you're the top 5% in that role. So if you judge that on 18 teams, 36 players, do you know what I mean? Do the maths. That's the top 3 each week statistically on output. Absolutely phenomenal from Newman. It's actually getting monotonous as well, because every week we're seeing a flux. So again, ground ball gets phenomenal. Every time the ball hits the deck, this man's first to the scene. Now he's adding these score launches. The pressure is good. Invariably, the guy who's opposite him has a bad day out. Nick Newman has just quietly become Carlton's best general defender.
Wow. Nick Newman's probably becoming our best and fairest. Like,
could be
what a
smoky.
week.
Chera's injury.
Yeah. Well, yeah, Chera was, I mean, the conversation was that Chera was so far ahead. And now it's kind of like, I think Nick Newman's too far ahead now.
Amazing, isn't it? Like, we were too far away to play finals, and then Nick Newman heard Chera's too far away to be caught, and he was like, hold my beer, I'll bring him back down.
Righto. Well, Newey, we love him. You know who else we love, Pom?
Z-Fish.
Zach Fish. Not 1 game, not 2 games, but now 3. 3 really important games. We're going to talk about Dow in a moment as well, because those are the 2 that sort of came into the side and have really helped steady the ship while we wait for Walsh and Chera to come back. And, mate, nothing but praise for Fish. Nothing but praise. I think everyone can come together now and say that he's He's done his job over the last 3 weeks. I think we can all agree on that now.
And it's interesting as well, this last couple of weeks, we've seen Blake Acres get less traditional wing time. And he slots across halfback like he did against when he was a St Kilda boy. And you can see here Zach Fisher, halfback, and then pinch hitting on the wing. And look at his numbers. So we just praised Nick Newman, 11 ground ball gets. This guy's got 8. Intercept possessions, we praised Mr. Sard. This guy's got more than him, 8. Then score launches, his ability to turn quagmire into great is again understated. A little bit of class when you need it from Zach Fish. And just quietly, that is a sexual heat map. I've got to say, you know who has heat maps like that? And I don't want anyone to clip this. So if you're a Collingwood fan watching this because you've got no life, this is a simile. Yeah, do you know what I mean? This is a simile. This is a simile, not a direct comparison, but very similar to what you'd see Nick Dacos do.
Wow.
That heat map, very similar.
I remember his first game. It looked something like this. I remember last week, probably not as much in that defensive half, but yeah, his willingness to go and get the ground ball and throw himself into contests was simply just not there at the start of the year to what it is right now. I mean, it's him. It's almost all of them. There's just such a commitment and such a will to win now, and they're all showing it, that real desperation. And it's coming off the back of the run, the momentum, and now it's this new layer that we've never had with this group, which is you got to perform if you want to play finals football. And I think he probably finds himself in that bracket where I think there's probably 6 to 8 players in this bracket where, you know, if 1 or 2 weeks of form that's not to the standard where they've got to hit their markers, then they put themselves at risk of potentially not playing in the following week. So I just think what he's done, and we'll get to Dowie, what they've done over the last few weeks, full credit, mate. And we've needed it. And they've now played an important role in helping us make finals. So, and beyond.
Hey, on the fan cams yesterday, I asked people the question, 2 questions. One of them was, if I told you 10 weeks ago we'd be 5th, what would you say to me? And the majority was, I'd probably punch you in the face for being an idiot. The other one was, I was like, can you imagine 10 weeks ago if I told you Fisher and Dow will have a huge say in us playing finals this year? You would have also probably glassed me. Do you know what I mean? Like, can you imagine if someone had come from the future and said, stop getting upset, you've lost to Essendon, but I can tell you finished 5th. Yeah. And there's more. Fisher and Dow, get you there. You'd be like, mate, fuck off.
Get out of here.
And he has done. Fish will be remembered. We keep saying legends are made at this club by what you do. When they win the flag this year, you'll directly remember Dow and Fisher. You'll be in a pub somewhere, 65 years old, boring your grandson of the time Zach Fisher tore apart Gold Coast in the second half.
Let's have a look at what he got. He got a 9. This would be a record for him, I feel. Yeah.
Mate, Fish.
I feel like it is. Yeah, that's the best.
It's official.
It's official. Hey, where's my man Eddie Haddad? That's his name. Where's he at? Somebody want to message him? The guy that was giving me grief for sticking up for him. Somebody give me his name. Where's he at? Why isn't he here? Why aren't they here? Why isn't he here? Where's Eddie? Why is it when the tide turns, they're not here, but when like the shit's here, like the shit's happening, they're here? Where's my man Eddie? Eddie, I need you. If anybody knows where Eddie is, let me know.
Well, Fisher's stats brought to you by Eddie Haddad.
I look forward to seeing him on the show soon. Anyway, Blake Acres, mate. This is the best version of Blake Acres in his career, right? That's where he's gotten himself to.
Understated brilliance is Blake Acres. And you know what turns me on the most about Blake Acres is I now know when he's going to have a killer game if he kicks it out of bounds on the full in the first 3 minutes. Like, that is now the sign that Blake is going to take the piss. I actually am begging his first kick to go out of bounds because something happens. He clicks and he's like, oh, okay, shit. Better start doing my job. And look, Voss swung him round back. And look, where Fisher's heat map was, where Blake Acres had a large part of it. So Blake Acres, what can you say? Score launches, score involvements, territory battle against a team that plays one of the deepest forward presses in the league. So it was really interesting. A real battle of wills this week. Both sides like a forward half press. They don't care about being caught out the back. When you're trying to catch a team out the back, this is the man for the job. And he took the hard kick on, intercepts, pretty much everything you rate a wingman on. This guy rated highly in.
Yeah, I can't keep repeating how much I appreciate his ability to break a tackle or withstand a tackle as a winger who, I think in my mind, I typically picture a winger as a guy who doesn't have that contested side to his game. So I can't keep saying how much I appreciate it that he can do it.
Massive worry though if you watch the besties and his McDonald's order, because Jesus, that was full on, and he answered it with way too much vigor, like fucking 20 nuggets, double quarter pounder. Jesus Christ!
Oh, when you're playing like 652 meters gained, mate, add more nuggets to the order.
Jesus, but yeah, great game.
Great game. There's a couple that actually picked that well. All right, Cripps, mate. You know, I didn't pick up on the rib mattress that he was wearing under his Guernsey until I watched the replay. I didn't see it for at the ground, and now that I'm seeing 28 pressure acts and the 8 tackles, he was a sore boy. And I actually remember the contest where he did it. It was late in the Melbourne game, and he tackled Angus Brayshaw. So he's a sore boy, but he just willed himself, I think, especially in that second half.
This Cripps is the best Cripps. Keep saying it every week. This Cripps, keep your Brisbane Cripps. I want broken rib Cripps. Man who refuses to lose. Man who refuses to bow down. And he's a sexy little juggernaut when he's like this. You'll notice that his numbers, not his usual best, but interesting with Cripps, his intent numbers, the effort indicators, still massively high. So this is kind of Voss, whatever he says, maybe not telling the truth. Cripps is definitely hurt because the effort indicators are there. The application isn't, which would indicate that obviously something's holding him back. But look at that, 8 tackles with a rumored to be cracked rib is the rumors circulating. Can't tell you how hard it is to hit someone at pace 8 times when you've got half a rib cage working. Massive from him. And look at the ground he's covered as well. Look at the ground he's covered as well, all around the ground. And if you look at their heat map of ball retention and their ability to hit inside 50, pretty much wherever they were, Cripps was at that fall. He was in the furnace. Great little bloke.
What do you feel about giving him a week off next week, giving him a rest? How do you feel about that? That's the sentiment I think that a lot of us are thinking about.
We can purely cheat. We can cheat this week because we can have a full extended bench, Sunday, 6 o'clock, and we can cheat and go, right, let's look at the results. And once one of the sides who are chasing us, they'll get thumped. Brisbane will win. Melbourne will win. Teams like that. Carlton will be in a great position to say, right, Cripps out, Doc out, bring a few players in, just get through it, 2-3 week off then. Do you know what I mean? So I would be thinking about it. And if you go back, there's a great interview with Mr. Craig McRae, who he talked at the end of the season and said that if he had his time again, it was hard to rest players against Carlton because of the magnitude of the rivalry. But if that was a North Melbourne, they would have rested players and tried to prime them in for finals because they were playing a high-intensity brand. I think Carlton have to learn a lesson, really, and go, it'd be great to win 10 in a row, but let's be honest, the real game's the week after.
Yeah, that's true. So, you might be new here. These are not the ratings from the eye test, mate. They are rated based off the entire league. Welcome to the new player ratings. Cripper, 6.5. So that's just kind of the, pass mark, just a standard performance for him. But with context, we know that it's a lot more, isn't it?
look at the people around him when you see their ratings. That's
Correct.
That's a proper captain.
Yep. Young Ollie. 31 pressure acts, 22 sprinting efforts. So that's a separate individual sprint effort each time.
That's insane as well. Just so you know, that is not even close to AFL average. That's like basically Ollie said, you know what, I'm taking the piss. Now, this is where Sal will enjoy this. So if you're an old school footballer, you'll look at rubbish stats. You'll look at disposals. You'll go, right, he had 11 disposals. That's not really good, right? And you'll look at indicators that don't line up with the game, right? But when you're running this hard, you look at the two areas. Playing two wings is tough. But 22 sprints, most on the ground, most repeat sprints as well. So what a repeat sprint is you do the hard work, the ball gets transferred over, and you do it again, right? That's very hard to do. One of the highest average speeds on the ground as well, right? Do you know what I mean? Running at 14.2 Ks this week. So he was 6th for most kilometers ran this week. You can't buy that. You can't buy that. That's a rare gift. And look at this. He's playing a different role, defensive. This week he had to be really strong defensively. And these are solid numbers. And most people, when you see a winger, they shirt contests. This guy, you can see he was an inside midfielder as a kid. And that will be the future of his career. He'll eventually pinch it in the midfield. Tell you what, put 5 kgs on this bloke and look out.
I'm curious about this because last week I feel like he was all, and for the last few weeks, I feel like he's been on one side of the ground. So is this potentially something different that they're trying with him, getting him on both sides, or is that just a coincidence and this was a game that looked like this?
You know what? I think what it is watch Blake Acres' heat map, look at Fisher's heat map, look at Ollie's heat map. That suggests to me that Voss had one mind of what do I do when Cherry comes back in and what do I do with Walsh? And I would suspect what I've looked at over their position over 2 weeks, that would mean that someone is being moved out of the high half forward line. And when we come on to Motlop, I'll explain what Motlop did different this week. I would suggest we're going to see a return to Walsh resting at half forward. And I think we're going to see a return of Chera resting at half back, not the wing. So I think that Doc, now being a midfielder, has created a new little loop. And I think Voss was trying that out. So I think that's quite interesting that Voss showing a bit of intuition about the future of not just doing it the day of the game.
Yep. Righto. Well, young Ollie gets a 6.5. Right above that pass mark where we need everyone. So what's the formula? If everyone in the team averaged a 6.5, would be going okay. If the entire team was 6.5.
Yeah. So you think 6 is average, so that's 9th.
Gotcha.
Right. So think if everyone got 6, 9, we'd be finished 9th on the ladder. And then escalate. If everyone got 10, 1. If everyone got 9, do you know what I mean? 2, 3. Try and do that in the maths.
All right. Cottrell. Talk about a guy that works hard. One of the plays of the game, his effort on the right wing, I believe it was, outran 2 Suns players. A smart little dinky kick to Charlie, who went over who went over the top. Played his 50th game and ran 16 kilometers and worked himself into the ground. This bloke.
Again, we talk about repeat efforts, repeat sprints. Again, he was joint on there, so that's. So imagine running 16 Ks and just reading you out the sprint distance that he's got to be running within 60 seconds of slowing down below 24 meters out an hour. He's got 24 kilometers an hour within 60 seconds. He does it again, right? So him and Ollie both recorded 5 and he ran 16 kilometers. Right? That's a long way. Like I tell you what. A long fucking way. 5 score involvements, 1 goal. And again, what we're talking about, Ollie, this rotation. Again, high half forward and then went to the right wing when Blake Acres went left half back. So real interesting that this rotation has really formulated over the last 3 weeks. Look out for that.
Thing about Cottrell, where he's gotten himself to in his career. So I still remember really clearly. I mean, it wasn't that long ago when he got to the club. He came over with Michael Gibbons, and he was very raw. The running power was always there, but he didn't have the game awareness. And so seeing that play on Saturday afternoon, where he ran along the wing and had the awareness not to just blaze away forward, but to just, dink the kick into the advantage of Charlie. It's just not a play that he was making 3 years ago. So to see that development of that, and it's just another reminder, we can get so caught up in trying to come to a conclusion as to what a situation is without letting the course of time do its thing. Like at quarter time, game's over. Like we're quick to judge, myself included. But now he's starting to show these attributes of game awareness and maturity. And I mean, you can tell he's played senior footy for quite a bit now, and it's only just started to get to a new level for him. So the fact that he's already got the running power, and that's just going to keep building, and now he's got the game awareness, like he's a really important player for us now.
I don't think there's any show in the world of AFL football like this that showcases players like Matt Cottrell. So Matt Cottrell, when you look at his numbers, he's never going to stand out. But what does stand out from it is his ability to milk every ounce of talent out of his little body. And that's what Matt Cottrell does. Matt Cottrell is like Ollie Hollands, is like Nick Newman. They maximize every sinew and put it on the park. And they are the players that win you flags. Your Crippses don't win your flags. Your Charlie Curnows don't win your flags because they can't kick 10 goals and have 50 clearances every game. They need someone to do the hard yakka as well consistently. And Cottrell is the poster boy of 6 out of 10.
Well, he got a 7 on this occasion. So
he did.
Good on him. Good on him. Jack Martin against his old club. We talk about one of the most important players in the team most weeks. This guy. Yes, I get it now. I get it. The image in my head of him tackling 2 players at once will never go away. His commitment to the cause now is really clear. There were times where I questioned his commitment and I was wrong. But he's so important now to what we do, isn't he?
I love Jack Martin. And like Curnow, Martin, Pom, Cotter, probably the 3 Pom boys. Do you know what I mean? Who get probably more love than they deserve at times. There's been times I've given them love and they probably don't deserve it. Real interesting what his role is at the moment. So we're going to talk about Motlop in a minute, but you saw the high half forward. Once Cuningham went off, you saw the position that Voss is threatening him to play. That is that third tall that everyone always asks about. The Nate Carnegie type that's been brought up. That third tall guy. And this is why he's so good. 3 marks inside 50. When McKay and Curnow dominated, this guy slot into that hole they created. The 2 tackles inside 50, showing the intent. And also, again, this week, 48% of his touches became opportunities at goal. So this guy is like, he gets the ball 1 out of 2 times. Carlton are going to have an opportunity at 6 points, which is phenomenal. This guy, he reminds me of JSOS 2019 when we did that stat where it was 56% of his inside 50s became shots. We're now talking about this guy does it with every touch. It becomes a shot goal. Different gravy is Jack Martin. And tell you what, this kid stays fit. Finals, he's built for finals because he needs one moment, and he takes the game away from you.
There were 2 passages of play where I thought he was about to be tackled and he found a way to find another square meter of space around him, and he had this real burst to him. And I don't know, I was like, he's a little extra motivated because it's the Suns or the game or the occasion. I'm not sure, but if he starts bringing that burst away from stoppage to our team in finals, sorry, then I'm here for it. It's got a Norm Smith waiting for him. So
mate, this guy could play football in the snow and you wouldn't see his footprints. Like,
Jack
what a
Jack
sexy
Martin,
little human.
He's playing finals football. This guy's playing finals football. That's what's happening.
I take back everything I've said about 2 first names.
Yeah.
Everything.
All right. Matty Owies. another professional. And so I sat a little bit higher than what I usually would at most weeks. And this guy, it's the basketball background. His awareness of space, his ability to read where to go to get himself in an advantageous area he'd be up there. He'd be in a really high rating across the league. He sees space very well.
Mate, he's, as you know, you played basketball a lot more than me, Terry. It's not really a pom thing. Do you know what I mean? If we're in the gym, we're boxing. We're not playing basketball. So, but similar logic applies. If you're not very good at fighting, you've got to avoid a punch. So his ability to avoid issues and find space is incredible. But I want to alert you to that top left area where he was there a bit of times. And Carlton this week noticed that the marking prowess of Gold Coast is quite strong. So this is why you'll see the spoil numbers quite high. Owies and Motlop both this week, instead of having two toes in the wing areas on exits, which has traditionally been Harry and Charlie, they actually now use TDK and Pittonet and then put a small around them. And their job wasn't to mark, it was to paddle on. And Owies loves that. And Owies again showcasing the foreground ball gets. He's very good. 5 is elite for his position. Tackles inside 50. These have gone down as he's become more of a poacher. His job is to feed off the back. And he took his 2 goals, as you'd expect, with ease. Good finisher, this guy. This guy finishes it.
Yeah. Just a standard 6.5. That's what we love to see. Oh, my bad. TDK with a 5.5. That's all right. We're here now. Let's talk about TDK. Probably didn't have as much impact, Tom, as what he has had over the last few months. What do you think? Is it just a situation? Like I feel like he had some crucial moments and some crucial tackles, but there's still room for him to improve.
These type of games aren't ruck games.
No,
to be fair. And why I've put his stats up there is I want to talk about this. This guy, that's the best 5.5 you'll see, because pretty much every ruckman indicator in the AFL average, right? Which is all you can ask for here, because he is a victim of circumstance. And Gold Coast were geniuses, right? Where our halfbacks go up the wing and we cut back inside and create an overlap, theirs went to the contest and they tried to create that wall of 9 I talk about defensively and offensively. Carlton have. They played a real negating role of just trying to flood it, which isn't TDK's job, and he's not going to have fun doing that. But ultimately, did you notice their ruckman? Probably not. So all in all, TDK did a job. And your ruckman doesn't win your games. To be honest, your ruckman isn't going to win your games. If you rely on your ruckman to win, you're screwed. And great system, because there's things he doesn't get the rewards he probably deserves to with how hard he worked.
Righto. I won't muck this one up. Charlie Curnow. You know, I think in general, we'll talk about this on the Blue Broad show, but I didn't realize the gravity of what Charlie did until I watched the replay. Because in the moment, I was so stressed that we were down 40. But yeah, that was a first for him, the way he played like that.
You know, it's funny because, like, I think Charlie's a bit like me. He's getting bored now of people catching on to he's the best player in the league. And he's obviously the best forward. And obviously, at some point in the game, he was like, you know what, fuck it. I'm going to prove I'm the best backman in the league as well now. Like, Charlie's bored. He's completed forward craft. But let's be serious. Charlie's work rate was insane. And one thing about Charlie is, and Tasmos, the legend she is, she was proper getting on the beers this weekend. I've enjoyed it.
Can I just tell you now, he was in fine form on the Gold Coast.
I rate it from her. But again, 502 meters gain. Not many forwards do that. His work rate behind and ahead of the ball, his goal assists, the kick to Owies, the dime he fed Mr. McKay was ridiculous. Took his goals well. Brought the ball to ground. Almost the perfect game from Charlie Curnow. It was almost the perfect game.
What went against him, if anything? Or maybe the first quarter.
What went against him? It was the first half. He went shockingly. Charlie Ballard and Sam Collins, who took turns on him, they were 100% against him for the first half one-on-one, which is a concern. And that will always go against him because 10 means 4 solid quarters. But ultimately, he won the war.
Yeah.
The best 9.5. Prove I don't manipulate this.
Yes.
Because I would have given that a 10.
Correct. This is a classic example of being practical and not getting sucked in. So there you go. Although I think early in the year we give him an 11. I think the first West Coast game we gave him an 11. So that's that. All right. Harry looked like a guy that had been missing for 4 or 5 weeks.
Probably got the most abuse in chat at quarter time, which those who watched me, I was a little bit upset at quarter time, how people were acting. But Harry, this is Harry being a victim probably of 2 things. 1, the Coleman medal. 2, with all due respect to Harry, he isn't Charlie. He isn't Charlie. Charlie can win his own ground ball. And Charlie actually led the team in forward 50 ground ball gets. So above Collingwood, above Gold Coast small forwards and ours. So let that sink in. Like, he's a small forward in a big man's body. Harry can't do that. But Harry's work rate around the ground is insane. Harry's ability to drag players out, insane. And that second half, that third quarter spurt Charlie had, directly this man, because his running lanes in front of Ballard and in front of Collins gave Charlie 2 seconds head start, which is insane to do. So, Harry, solid game.
Is this goals? Is it goal assists?
5. What is 5? That's a mistake. Well done, you put that. Tell you what, I'll tell you. Let me drag up the thing. Harry McCoy. It's his marks, that should say. His marks around the ground.
All good. I felt like he didn't have confidence in his strength, but he did have confidence in his running. So once that marries up and he's clearly going to be a lot better for the run, it's a blessing to get that game out of the way for him, because I think for a lot of that game didn't seem to impact with ball in hand. But like you said, there's a lot he still did for the team, and that doesn't go unnoticed on this show anyway. All right. Pitto. Oof. We see some red. 17.6% hit out to advantage. Now that is his stat, right? That is that's his bread and butter. So that's a very low percentage for him for what he usually does.
Way below, because Pittonet is Mr. Hit outs to advantage. That's his one wood. So the total clearances is strong, but I want to bring you a bit of an attention here. Just look at where he was around the ground and the times that he was around. And then having your mind's eye TDKs, he'd kind of glossed the ground pale yellow. And this is a really interesting one, right? Really interesting one with Pittonet, because all of the players that were one-dimensional, there's probably only 2 that you're going to see have one job. And that makes it very hard team selection-wise of what Carlton do. And Pittonet might be, his one wood is the hit-outs to advantage, winning them. It didn't happen this week. So you kind of saw the negating. And them clearances, they were like scrubs off the ground as well. They weren't like your Gorns clearances where he takes it down and he pings one to Petraka in the half-forward flank. So something that he's going to have to work on. And it's a weird one. It's a weird one. But he did his job. He was part of a winning team.
Yeah, that's right. So he got a 4. Interesting that both rucks didn't score too highly, but We will see. Wow. Sam Dock. We just cover the whole ground, mate. What's going on here?
And this is interesting because you're going to see both your real leader, Cripps, and your spiritual leader, Sam Doherty, constantly deployed in the places when shit hit the fan. Do you know what I mean? And again, this is a Sam Doherty type game. Played a little bit as a winger, played a little bit on the ball, and even slotted half forward to negate some of their run off the back half of the ground, which is very, very, very new to Doc. But again, Doc just being that spread type player and pretty much related AFL average for a winger, for a midfielder, and a half forward as well with his numbers. So not brilliant numbers, but again, doing what he has to do.
Getting there for the moments that he needed to. So 6. So yeah, okay. So standard game. This guy here, I can't see what his score is yet, but mate, I think Jack Martin, we say, is a very important X factor player for us. This guy is the engine room. He is the engine of the midfield. He's the grunt. He's so important. And when I watch him live, I appreciate him so much more because of how clean he is in tight. My goodness, he's a player.
This guy he's the cop, really. He's the policeman, the enforcer of this. He just does everything well, and it's all the boring stuff. These are the kind of games that at the end of the game they would have probably given Newman the kudos, Curnow the kudos, but the only person that probably gave them their ability was this guy. And I said it last year, this guy won Cripps the Brownlow. Half of it's his. You're seeing it again. This is what he does. He just wins ball. And 70% contested possessions, it basically means that you're under the cosh all day.
Yeah.
10 ground ball gets, 10 tackles. Just get the ball, feed the ball. Get ball, feed ball. Get ball, feed ball. And George Hewitt, the master of monotony.
Yeah. Well, getting his form, you can see here, Gav saying finally got his form back. And yeah, I think getting his form and more importantly, getting his body right at the right time of the year, which is something we just didn't get to experience last year. The body broke down at the end of the year and we just couldn't get him right, couldn't get him up and about for it. So yeah, no, I'm looking forward to this. Where's he at? 9.5. Fair. Would love to have given him a 10. Yeah, I thought he was bloody sensational. Yeah. As was this guy, Paddy Dow. I think prior to this game, one of his best games was against the Gold Coast Suns, where he kicked that running goal that we would replay for 5 years afterwards because it was the only highlight, one of the few highlights of him. But he's the way he was like dancing through traffic. It was like Paddy Dow at his best and most confident. And it's not that I don't want Walsh or Cherry in the side, but I kind of want to see what it looks like again with him. He's got me mesmerized.
Interesting. When we talked about Dow a while ago, we said that the role he plays in the VFL is Cripps, right? And we were like, there's no way he can play the Cripps role because you ain't dropping Cripps. Now, it's interesting that if you watch the heat maps since we've had heat maps on this show, and then watch the heat maps since Dow's been in on the AFL website, it's kind of one position only. Now, with the Cripps injury, we actually found Dow covering a lot of ground and showcasing what he's good at. And that is being in and getting the ball out. And you can see there, ground ball gets, again, pressure indicators, working hard, was only behind Hewitt of the on-ball pairing, beating Sam Doherty, beating Ed Curnow, beating Cripps in that avenue. So showing you that the pressure there, contested possession rate, managed to get himself free a little bit, and that was the Hewitt handball, which used to be the Cripps role. Score involvement's mental. Do you know what I mean? Yep. Mental. Everything that went through his hands, particularly in the second half, became goals and some very important clearances. And tell you what, Dow, it's great to see him, isn't it? It's great to see it. Great story for the Blues.
Yeah. It's just a great story of self-belief. He might have been one of few people to truly believe in what he could do. So he's earned respect. That's kind of how I summarize Paddy Dow. Let's have a look. 8.5. The other thing I noticed about him the last few weeks, mate, intercept marks. What's going on? Paddy Dow taking
We
intercept
joked about
marks.
that in the fourth quarter, saying, Jesus, Kemp's not taking his usual intercept marks. Let's see it. Let's see him down back for maybe a game. Maybe give Marchbank the week off. But Dow's marking good. Debbie asking about pressure acts. Obviously, with a midfielder, pressure acts, you're looking for that pressure. You're also looking to see a lot of them when they have high numbers translate into tackles, which we didn't see. And that wasn't really his role. So his role, Hewitt took the defensive brunt. So did Cripps. And Dow was the surplus. So kind of what we praised Chera for, Dow got this week. They were doing more of the grunt work. He was getting out free. And that's a real hard thing to do. But Dow's game, phenomenal.
Righto. Jesse Motlop. I thought his second half. I thought his second half was great. And after watching the replay, it was because I feel like he's also in this bracket of 1 or 2 weeks of, form that's not getting it done will have him at risk of losing his spot, especially when you consider Fogarty's, got to come back into the mix. But I think he showed exactly that this is the standard for Jesse Motlop when it comes to finals this year, that this is what we need from him. I mean, 8 scoring goals is wild.
My boy Cunningham this week was really disappointing. All right, really disappointing. We'll come on to him.
Mm-hmm.
But this game needed someone to change something up in the second half, right?
Yeah.
In the second half, it needed someone to realise that they could double team Harry and they could double team Mr. Curnow, right? So someone had to get off the chain. And this conduit area, the red top left bracket, and you remember Martin had this middle right bracket. Someone had to feed on it. And Jesse Motlop was the man who said, you know what? I've got this. I can do what Cunningham does. I've got the skills. And his work in the second half, without a shadow of a doubt, won us that game. So you can keep your Hewitts. Even I'll drop my Charlie love. Motlop won us that game in the third quarter. His hard work and selflessness of finding a way to get the ball from half back to that hot zone so Carlton could launch. That was all Motlop. He was sensational. Ben, comment of the week. He had a Toby Green 2.0 about him in that third quarter. He can maximise that for 2-3 quarters. You're looking at a guy that Charlie Curnow will be like, fucking hell, I can't believe I've got Small this good as well.
Yeah, it's going to be unfair almost. He scored an 8. And fair enough. He was great. Well done. Second-year player. Just a reminder, he's a second-year player. Cunners. Yeah, just played his 50th game. A long journey to 50. But just didn't seem to have the same impact as what we've seen from him since he got back into the side.
They did a really, really good job on Cunningham as well. You could see that Gold Coast, to their credit, did a lot of homework on how Carlton usually fish their way out of problems. And this was a guy that was watched heavily this week by Brendan Ellis. Brendan Ellis watched him like a hawk. And he never really got going. And when you look at the numbers from Motlop, he was getting free, getting the marks. Motlop was too quick, too young, too energetic, too tricky. And unfortunately for Cunners, it was a bad game. But I mean, Cunners, his last 3 weeks have been sensational. So
yeah,
see what we said about Motlop last week. It wasn't his best game, but he's built a bank of being good enough. Right? Do you know what I mean? And this is one of them games that it didn't come off for him. And sometimes it happens. And this is why we've got 18 players who are pretty good. Who each one will take it in turns to have a day.
He's got a 3.5 for the game. I think he was subbed. Was it in the third?
Yeah.
Late in the third? Yeah. So there's that as well. Cincotta, Palm-Cotta, Terracotta. This guy. He took an intercept mark. I feel like it might have been in the second or third quarter. And I was on the other end of the ground. And I remember him taking the mark. And I was like, who was that? Was that Wiedering? And then he turned around to take the kick. I'm like, fuck, that was Cincotta? Yeah. Just another day. Another day and another opportunity to get better. And that's what he did.
Mate, Pom Cotter, we love him. Not everyone gets the POM added to the name, but there's something about this guy. I mean, this guy's welcome for a bar fight in Hull whenever he wants. Just Pom Cotter doing Pom Cotter things. Bo hits the deck, he hits someone. Someone thinks it's funny to do a sidestep, he hits them as well. He's the fun police in the defensive half. You try and have fun around Pom Cotter, he ain't having it, not on my watch. So wasn't a spectacular game on output wise, as you can see, right back to the old school. You are back pocket, you are last line of defense, you are going to be physical and boring and make it difficult. So numerically, it's not a great game, but in reality, when you look at the context of the game, he was very strong.
Yep. Got a 5.5. And then finally, there's Ed Curnow. Ed will become, I thought about this the other day, yesterday, I had this conversation, like, Ed's the last time we were in finals, Ed was playing. He's the last one standing. He's hanging on by a thread, but he's still here.
I'm still standing better than I ever did. Mr. Ed Curnow, interesting facts about Ed Curnow, right? Little Pom stat. Ever since he comes on as sub, his first stoppage clearance he attends becomes a goal. And look at the 2 score launches. Maybe Voss knows. maybe Voss knows. Fuck, games here to be won. Ed's cheap. Ed gets us a cheap 6. Cheap 6, but as you can see, not a great game, not very limited space. Kind of the odds and sods player. It's been interesting when Voss has brought him on. The rotations really shift on the interchange bench because of Ed's engine. He plays like 4 different roles. So maybe we now have the answer. Why don't Carlton have an exciting sub? We have a sub that allows an extended rest for 4 players, which is probably huge in the context of this game.
No doubt. So he scored a 5, did Ed Curnow. And those are the ratings. We're going to get the team up now. Boom. So when I look at that, yeah. We haven't seen this many oranges and reds in a while. But obviously having those top ends there, the 10 and the 2 9s, and a couple of 8.5 or 9.5, kind of tells a story, because we weren't ahead for a lot of the game. We were behind for a pretty solid portion of the game, even in the 4th when the Suns kicked away a little bit. So this makes sense to me.
Well, you can see, so if you've been watching since we changed this at the start, there's little things that I can give you as evidence of why this system works. So one's Doherty. I think 90% of people said 8. And I can tell you, when I used to rate Sam Doherty's game, I'd give it 2 more because of the story and I like it, right? And then full disclosure, I'm not an absolute huge fan of how Dow goes about his work, right? I'm not a huge fan of it because, and this is with all respect, I like players to be well-rounded. I don't like them to be superb at one thing. So it's not something that turns me on. So I would give Doc a higher rating than Dow because Dow did 8 things, where Dow was the master of 1, right? So this is how it works. Carlton, the game tells the tape. Some players were just average. Some players were below average. But then some players like Fisher, who would be 6. We want a 6 from Fisher. He's not a superstar. He's not our best player. We want him to play a role. He jumped up into superstar category. Doherty did his job. But when Doherty was doing his job, Dow excelled and went above and beyond. Curnow, he had nearly a 10. McKay, his partner, was average. And you see, it's all that happy equilibrium, the yin and yang of a football club. So where last week, team effort, this week, even more of a team effort. Players doing their job, players saying, you're having a bit of a stinker. Don't worry, I've got your back, mate. You just tackle. And that is a well-rounded team. Bravo, boys.
Love it. I love the fact that we were able to integrate heat map and keep the guessing element to this as well. So, ladies and gents, there
Try
you
my
go.
best.
There you go. No, appreciate it, mate. I'm interested. I'm interested to do this amidst see what it would look like in a 6-game losing streak. Imagine we had this from the beginning of the year. Well, we wouldn't have, because there was no 6-game losing streak to
In the bye, though, we did
spur us
do
on.
it, if you remember.
Yes, we did. We did. We
And
absolutely did.
it was dire straits, if you remember. If you remember that as well, there was a few players that had average of 8.5 and 9s, and then there was a host of 4s and a host of 4.5s, and we did specify that them players need to get to 6.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they get to 6, if you remember that Essendon review, everything numerically was good. It was just the execution and the little bit of finesse. And what's happened now? The lower players, boom, getting into them 6s, which then raises the top players. How good's that? Simple game, really.
Yeah. So there you go. Now, if you're watching at home, particularly on YouTube, if you're watching this on YouTube and you thought this was 1 out of 10 valuable, hit the like button. The like button, I've understood, helps get the video out there to more people. So if you'd like to help out and say thank you, please hit the like button. If you're not subscribed, we'll start there. But if you are subscribed, hit the like button. And mate, see you at 7 p.m. Go pour a nice big cup of tea. I thought this would take a little bit longer, which is why I brought it forward to 5:30. But we'll test it out. And anyway, thanks again. And see you at 7 o'clock.
See you at 7, chat.
Yes, sir.